Super Supportive by Sleyca. Chapter 177. Guests. "I can't believe they all ditched," Alden said when he and Howie were alone once more. The little cauldron was spewing fresh clouds of steam into the room. He had learned to appreciate the melony scent and the way inhaling a new batch of the stuff seemed to reset the sauna experience. Just when you were getting tired of the heat, the dose of steam pushed you back to that point where the temperature felt therapeutic. "It's a rather specific crowd here," Howie said from above him. "They've got plenty of money, they're disproportionately likely to be summoned for something dangerous, and they just found out the person coming to visit is the type who probably does summon people for the dangerous missions sometimes. Plus, they want to relax. Even if they're not that worried about a summoning, minding your manners around a wizard of unknown temperament could be stressful." All true things. "I'm surprised it was all of them, too," Howie admitted. "Normally in a group that big, you'd think there would be a couple who want to suck up to an Artonin, and a few more who are just not bothered. Can you imagine our teachers running off like that?" Alden could more easily imagine Big Snake talking Escherdy's ears off than he could imagine him making a rush for the exit. "I don't think most of our classmates would have left either," Alden said. "Ha!" said Howie. "Some of them would bankrupt themselves to buy a membership right this second so that they could come annoy him. Maddie keeps saying things about how you might be getting secret knowledge and techniques from being around so many wizards at Matadero, and if he was there, he would be getting secret knowledge and techniques and petitioning them to add a bunch of spells and skills to Agi." Holden was about to respond when Escherdy appeared in front of the glass door. He was wearing a spa robe and carrying a handful of brochures. When he spotted Alden and Howie, he smiled, tilted his head, then headed back down the hall the way he'd come. "He's leaving!" Howie sounded so horrified that Alden turned to give him a surprised look. "Was he upset that we were here? Or is it just me?" "It's me, isn't it? He likes you!" "You're freaking out for no reason, man. He doesn't know you. Why would he leave because of you?" "Maybe I'm really ugly by Triplanet standards. Maybe I was making an offensive face." "Were you making a face?" "I don't know. I was curious about him. I could have looked creepy." Escherdy reappeared in front of the door about 2 seconds later, wearing a towel around his waist instead of the robe and still carrying the brochures. "See?" Alden texted Howie. He was just taking off the robe because he saw we weren't wearing one, trying to match the local style. Then in Artonin he said, "Hello, Escherdy." "Alden, I find you in a hot room surrounded by wood. This is very pleasant. I should tell Lind about it." He walked in a circle around the pedestal with the cauldron on it, having a good look at it and giving them a good look at him at the same time. Artonins were undeniably alien when nude, or even just shirtless. In adults, the navel was minimal, if it was visible at all. Cosmetically darkening the spot where it had been was a thing in certain situations. Nipples, located where humans expected to see them, ranged from flesh-toned to, "Wow, those are purple." Escherdy's were closer to the former, but his back striping was vibrant. 2 periwinkle blue slashes began an inch below the base of his neck and followed along either side of his spine. The stripes broke and faded before disappearing just above the towel. Artonin females had marks in the same area, though theirs were much less noticeable. Actually, the male striping was usually a bit subtler as well. Escherdy was kind of showy. His tattooing, however, was restrained. Lines, whorls, and dots were confined to a band around his right calf. It was impossible to tell if it was 1 tattoo or 20 carefully arranged together so that they didn't clash. Alden watched him stick a finger into the cauldron, then pop it into his own mouth. After a moment he nodded. "This is well done. Very good. I'm glad humans have this." Then he looked toward Alden expectantly. "This is my friend Howie Jangdemir. We live together on campus. Howie, this is Tian Escherdy. He saved me from a giant wave a week ago." "Hello," Escherdy said before Howie could get his own greeting out. "You aren't ugly. And if you were, it wouldn't keep me from enjoying an Earth relaxation experience with you." Alden had to fight not to smile at Howie's expression of chagrin. When the knight walked over and climbed up to sit beside Howie, Alden caught a glimpse of pastel green Ariad holding his long hair in place on top of his head. "When I wasn't much older than the two of you, I shared a traditional oil poo with a and its brood." The name of the species was a chittering sound that went untranslated. Alden had never heard it before as far as he could remember. "The people I'd gone on the mission with convinced me that someone had to do it to avoid giving offense." Escherdy thrust his hands away from him in a gesture Alden didn't realize. "They were evil." "The crick chick chick chick, how you asked?" doing what Alden thought was a remarkable job of pronouncing the sound. No, the knights I travelled with. They said it was the duty of the young to keep the old amused on long journeys. Of course, I don't disagree, but a pool full of brood isn't funny. All those sharp little legs. Alden was almost afraid to ask. What is a crick-chickadee? The contract didn't define it, how you added. That's an unnecessary obscuration, in my opinion. Imagine a dried lobeberry twice my size, with many legs and a habit of oiling itself. By the time he finished explaining the species, Alden was fairly sure they were giant spider raisins who had no contract and limited contact with the triplanets. He was also fairly sure that persuading the youngest member of the squad to take an oil bath with them was truly evil. From there, they ended up talking about Haoyu's family. Escherdy seemed interested in his class choice, and very happy to hear that he was following in his parents' footsteps. Initially nervous, Haoyu was growing bolder with every multilingual sentence. In the process of trying to mix in all the Artonan words he knew, he was occasionally pulling Mandarin and Turkish ones out of his head and throwing them into the mix. Alden had to read the translations to understand what he was saying sometimes. Does my father speak words about me while he's with you at Slaughterhouse? Haoyu asked, leaning toward Escherdy. By then they were all enjoying cushioning spells, and wooden bowls full of salted cucumber slices because the spa apparently was at such a loss about what to do for their high-profile guest that they just fulfilled the only request anyone had made. Yes, said Escherdy. He spoke of his family. What does he say about me? Haoyu asked, eyes narrowing as if he suspected his father of saying something he wouldn't approve of. No, said Escherdy, laughing. You must ask him yourself. I'm too clever to cause trouble with your parents, even if you have bribed me with your planet's version of water fruit. He crunched on another cucumber slice. The steam had faded, so Alden was sure someone would come by with another potion soon. Haoyu sat back. I want... He trailed off. Just when Alden assumed he must have changed his mind about sharing whatever it was, he finished the thought after all. I want to be as strong as my parents are, so that whenever one of them is summoned to a battle, I can go with them. Haoyu's eyes were fixed on the knight. His voice was firm. How do I do that? So that's who he is. Alden wasn't surprised at all, but there was a clarifying quality to the thought, as if a critical piece of another person's inner puzzle had been found and fitted into place. He'd had a lot of that recently with Stuart. Choosing to go all in on friendship by handing over like 30 puzzle pieces at once was so Stuart of him. Now Alden was hearing one of Haoyu's. Haoyu Zhangdemir, he thought, 15-year-old slow cooker enthusiast, does the recycling wrong. Will straight up ask a knight how to get to danger so he can watch his parents' backs. Escherdy regarded him for a while. Grow as comes naturally to you for a few years, newling. You may satisfy yourself more easily than you think. What if I can't? Call me. Haoyu straightened. When you're at an age when your parents wouldn't mind me answering the question, Escherdy finished. Haoyu groaned. So when I'm 90. Alden's laugh was drowned out by Escherdy's. Eventually people started to arrive. The first was a bearded man who seemed all right until Alden decided he seemed too all right. He refused to glance their way no matter what happened. Yeah, sure, guy. Act like you can't see Escherdy casting spells or hear our conversation about the differences between snakes and uncies. That's not a suspicious amount of nonchalance at all. But at least it was preferable to the next sauna-goer, a man who literally said, Alden the Rabbit, fancy meeting you here, before sitting way too close and pretending he was best friends with Alden, and something considerably more sycophantic toward Escherdy. Cucumbers, said Escherdy. What? Tion Escherdy, their new friend spoke in passable Artonan. I feel sad that they're all gone, said Escherdy, gesturing toward his empty bowl. By the time the man came back with more cucumbers, his seat had been taken by 2 members of the battle group that had been at Matadero with the knights and Haoyu's dad. They were a couple who'd been at the spa anyway, and they had decided to say a quick hello when they heard who was there. That quick hello got extended by Escherdy starting up a conversation about the Matadero rice wars. Alden wondered if he was the only one picking up on the fact that Escherdy was disappointed nobody had tried to attack him with a bag full of grain. I mean, I can't blame them. I don't think I'm brave enough to booby-trap his shower or whatever, even though he seems to want someone to do it. Maybe he could suggest that Druziota try it? We sent the peanut fudge, said the woman, nodding at Alden, for Thanksgiving. "I ate that," Ashurdy declared, "with champagne." "You champagne!" Howyu texted Alden with a gasp. "Criminal grape juice!" I didn't have any. "Why? Still some? Try." Alden ignored him in favor of thanking the fudge-making couple. Unfortunately, they were the nicest of the people trickling in. Alden counted 3 gawkers, 2 job-seekers, 1 person who was probably going to blog about the general's favorite vegetable, someone who seemed really jealous of Alden's fortunate position, and 1 self-proclaimed future member of the Anesidoran High Council. Then a woman walked in wearing a skimpy red bikini. The last time Alden had seen it, Emilia had been wearing it. "Way more people than I expected," Amy Velra said, turning in a circle to take in the room. The steam had been recently refreshed, and she waved a cloud out of her face. "That's good. You can all buffer, if the general decides to stay after I issue my warning." Everyone had fallen silent. Ashurdy looked intrigued at the promise of a warning, or possibly at the sight of the Velra tattoo on Amy's hip. He must have recognized it, since Aulia liked to stamp it on her things. "Thanks for not letting the ocean have my home, Tion Ashurdy," she said in what sounded to Alden like perfect Artonin. "I thought I should tell you that some people in my family have memberships here. Not because they enjoy exercise, just because this is a place where rich people are supposed to have memberships. A few of them are coming to inflict themselves upon you like a swarm of flesh-eating flying animals that were eradicated in the distant past. I think it's going to be Corin, Hugh—" "We should leave," Alden said, probably too adamantly, judging by Howy's outburst of snickering. Amy looked at him. "Hi! Dad loved the birthday present, and lots of other people loved watching you send Hazel off the planet. Maybe not her parents, though." "That's not on me. I was just an honest bystander." Alden was on his feet trying to make "let's escape" hand signs at Ashurdy, whose eyes were lighting with even more interest. "You know this woman?" "We're buddies," Amy announced. "She captured me and put me in a car against my will. She ruined a meal for some ducks, but she also shares her belongings and comes to give warnings, so I'm slowly forgetting about the first part." "Your accent is unique," Amy informed him. Alden was too busy trying to keep his towel around his waist while he shoved a bowl of cucumbers at Howyu to respond to her. "Snacks for the road," he said to Howyu. Come on, both of you. We'll go somewhere else." The reason he could imagine for Hugh, Corin, and whoever else was with them to want Ashurdy's time and attention were all negative. Maybe they were angling for Hazel to be declared Queen of Anesidora. Maybe they wanted the knights to give a speech about how Aulia was the best, most sweetest avowed, and how she'd have nothing to do with the sinker-sender theft. Or it could be the opposite, some kind of power play to make sure Aulia stayed stuck on her mega yacht for a few years while they did whatever it was people like them did when the boss was busy. Ashurdy and Lindota do not need further exposure to the worst of humanity on their Esvolgivnas, and I don't need Hugh glaring at me for getting his daughter jettisoned. Even Amy might not be as innocent as she appeared. Her mom seemed to be the closest thing Aulia had to a second in command. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Amy asked. Alden shook his head. Ashurdy allowed himself to be chivied out of the sauna. "I feel so well protected," he said as they headed for the showers, "and I feel so much more curious about Aulia's family than I did previously." "This is Alden's cottontail mode," Howyu said. "How did we get to the point where Howyu feels comfortable telling a knight about our dumb code names?" "This is Alden being practical," Alden retorted. "We need to get out of here anyway. Most of those people weren't fun. They were vibe ruiners." "We can go do something fun," said Howyu. "I want to do something fun," Ashurdy agreed. They both looked back at Alden, wearing bizarrely similar, hopeful expressions. "What the hell? When did I become the Friday night activities coordinator?" He tried to think of something that wouldn't turn into a circus. "We're very close to school. Did you want that tour now?" While Howyu and Ashurdy poked their heads into every classroom on the Artonan culture floor of the Forthright building, Alden trailed behind them, studying the map of the campus he'd pulled up. The goal was to show Ashurdy all the most interesting things without attracting crowds of people. Easier than it might have been, since we've ended up doing this on a Friday evening. No classes were in session, and if they saved places like the student center and the cafeterias until later, everyone would pretty much have cleared out. I'll make sure he has a good time and he feels like humanity is a pretty cool species, despite everything that's gone wrong. And that way, when he's on the front lines with his partner in the primary, he won't be thinking, "Why am I doing this for those people?" "And someone on this hallway pees in our roommate's shoes," Howyu said. Or we could tell him something like that. Alden dismissed the map and examined his tourist instead. Assured he was starting up a story about someone he'd known in school who watered a plant with nothing but her own tears one term. He came just to hang out with me, I think. There didn't seem to be any serious reason for Ashurdy's arrival at the spa. Maybe he really wants to chill for a couple of hours and not think about anything serious. Maybe shoe pisser is the right kind of thing for tonight after all. Do you want to see the learning cushions we use in my conversation class? Alden asked. Stu saw them on a video call. They're acceptable for most human students, but he's still so mad about them. He gave you permission to use his first name, Ashurdy said. Your friendship buds. Yes, Alden checked the door to the classroom and found it unlocked, as all the others had been. I've had permission for a long time. I was just dumb and didn't realize it. They saw ass-abused cushions in that room, a board with a gokorach eating a stick figure drawn on it in another, and in a lecture hall downstairs they found a brunette girl randomly sleeping at a desk. They woke her up by talking about whether or not they should wake her up, and then she shouted, "One cappuccino!" as soon as her eyes snapped open. That was how they found out she worked part-time at the coffee shop downstairs, and also how she ended up nervously making a cappuccino for an intrigued Artonin. Next, they went to the Performing Arts Building to ride the elevator up through the glass bubble chamber while Haoyu explained how the candle balls floating in the blackness were the perfect decorating idea that they hadn't quite managed to mimic in their dorm room. Yet, he added. Then they went to Cafeteria North just after closing time to show Ashurdy the fake town square. After that, Alden had been planning to take a walk through the memorial garden, but as they approached from above on the Nonagon, they realized people were arriving early for a vigil that would start just after midnight, to mark exactly 1 week since the sirens had sounded. Did either of you plan to attend? Ashurdy asked. I went to one a few days ago, Haoyu replied. This one will probably be really crowded, so I'd rather not. Alden tried to think of how to say he wanted to walk away from reminders right now, not run toward them, without the desire to sound dramatic or selfish. I'd rather not either, he said instead. And I shouldn't. Ashurdy was looking down through the Nonagon's surface, since I seem to be distracting for some avowed. The adjuster cleaning the cafeteria would have broken that table even if you hadn't been there, Alden lied. That's right, said Haoyu. Clumsy aim was his problem. Should we take him to see the MPE gym? Alden texted. Who now? Haoyu asked. It says private sessions on the schedule. Whoever it is, they probably don't want us there, right? Haoyu shrugged. I'll try to work it out for another day, Alden typed. They ended up making the dorm their last stop instead. Alden was under the impression that Haoyu was giving Lexi a warning, mostly because he had texted, "No worry, I can talk Danger Badger and make him open window for us." And Lexi did open the living room window for them the second they speed dropped out of the night sky, but it was obvious that whatever message Haoyu had sent, it hadn't included mention of their company. Alden was positive that Lexi wouldn't have greeted them in pajama pants and then yelled, if he'd had any clue who was coming. The look he directed Haoyu and the night was wild-eyed. The one he sent Alden's way was more murderous. Haoyu told me he'd call before we got here. Alden sent the message as he climbed through the window. He's your best friend, so I trusted him. Maybe he messed up a mental text? We're just going to show Ashurdy the apartment. Sorry. Best to make all of his arguments and apologies now, while witnesses prevented Lexi from doing any actual murdering. We have so much food left from yesterday, Haoyu was saying, as he trotted over to the fridge. You can have supper with us if you want, Ashurdy. Possibly he'll be eating supper with us too, Alden added. He was going to leave the explanation there and join Haoyu in digging through whatever was in the fridge, but then he thought better of it. Lexi was looking pale, and that wasn't actually unreasonable of him. Just a few short days ago, Alden had been nervous about the night. He had a lot more secrets to keep than Lexi did, but he also had a lot more information. Haoyu was so chill and grounded and easy to get along with. That made him feel like the normal one. But he's not. I think he might just be unusual in a way that's convenient for me. And even he was nervous about meeting Ashurdy for a second. Hey, come help me put my stuff down, said Alden. It was a weak excuse to pull Lexi from the room. Alden's stuff was a duffel bag he obviously didn't need help with. But Haoyu was explaining the pros and cons of cold pizza to their visitor, and neither of them looked around while Lexi followed him down the hall. If you want to go, I'll make an excuse for you, Alden texted as they entered his bedroom. The Nonagon is right outside. I can send you up to Cone's room or down to the garden. Lexi stiffened. Is he insulted? The Meister was air-typing. What is he doing here? Alden chucked the bag onto the floor beside the closet. He quickly ran through his Escherdy knowledge and decided most of it was actually shareable. He's probably not shopping for a vow, despite what all the people who seem to dread that or want that think. He's here with his partner, and after they finished up at Matadero, they were planning to enjoy Earth for a while. They're celebrating a relationship thing and vacationing together before they go do bad shit with other powerful people. If they were hoping to pick up some avowed for that, I'm not sure anyone on an Essidora would even be qualified. Their vacation plans got interrupted, but he's trying to make the most of it, I think, by being curious and blowing off steam when he's not busy. He's been doing a lot to look out for me, too much probably. The biggest risk of having him around is that he'll decide we need help with something, and then he'll do the helping too enthusiastically. He'll be very interested in you if you stay for cold pizza, but if he notices he's making you uncomfortable, he'll leave, or he'll try something to fix your discomfort, no telling what. He brought me juice while I wrote an essay, and he bought me a tree. When he finished, he watched his roommate read the long message. Finally, Lexi sighed and nodded. I'll go put on a shirt, he murmured. It wasn't long before he reappeared in the living area, well-dressed and ready to point out that Haoyu was feeding Escherdy all of the things that had been declared unfit for Wizard Thanksgiving a mere day ago. We can order good food from somewhere, he said seriously to Escherdy. You don't have to eat the mystery dishes and the floor potatoes. Don't worry, said Escherdy, looking at him with one eye and a smile. Human food isn't very frightening. What is floor potatoes? Haoyu started describing how the smashed potatoes had been dropped on the staircase because of Kon, and then had been reassembled, bowl and all, by Kon. And there's not even any dirt or dust or hair in there, as far as we can tell, Haoyu said, scooping some of the floor potatoes onto a plate for himself. When he brought it up there, they still had the butter swirl Soren had put on top and everything, which is amazing. But just in case, we decided not to send these to Matadero with the other dishes. Escherdy did take a bite of the potatoes, but not until he'd stared at them for a much longer time than anything else. You can stay here with your friends tonight if you want, Escherdy said. It was late, and the Nonagon was rising above Garden Hall. All of the most worrying matters have been dealt with. I'd like for you to return to Matadero again at least once, so that we can speak of certain things that are best spoken of in that place. But otherwise you're free to come and go while Linda and I are staying there. Come and go? Alden asked, almost bringing the Nonagon to a halt. The wind ruffled his hair. The air smelled clean and crisp. If you want. Would want to come and go from the slaughterhouse, Alden thought, only to realize he did want. People he liked were there, and Matadero was convenient for him in some ways. The teleportation area, he said. It's all right for me to use it to go see the mind healer on Monday? Travel through the TC had its inconveniences, and it would be easier to hide how frequently he was going to the Triplanets if his trips were routed through the cube. Or if I just vanished from my room like it was an insta-summons, but let's give Earth a break where we can, right? You can use any of the facilities you want, Escherdy said, though I'm aware that with your body healed, you may have trouble convincing people Porty is responsible for trips you make to the cube. I could tell everyone he was experimenting on me, and he might take that as an invitation to experiment on me. Why would I be allowed to come and go from Matadero if I'm not working there? Escherdy looked thoughtful. You've proven yourself worthy of trust. I like your company and want to enjoy more conversations with you before I leave Earth. It is convenient for me if you're occasionally in the same location as me, and I do hope to make your life easier. Giving you access to the building is such a minute privilege that I can't imagine an Artonan ever questioning it once they know the situation. I find your own people's fascination with your presence there perplexing. It's strongly associated with demon fighting, Alden pointed out, and I'm an adolescent, and a Riebit, and not very powerful. I know, said Escherdy, but everyone is aware by now that it's being used as a house, despite our polite fictions about making repairs. Oh, do some humans think the polite fictions hide nocturnal battles or rest? That misconception might explain some things. I don't think people think that, Alden said, at least not many of them. Honestly, I can't think of the word, novelty? The novelty of me being there, and envy mixed in, and some stranger things that aren't worth mentioning. I see, Escherdy said. He looked over toward Apex. Change our direction a little, since you seem to be coming back with me anyways. Yes, my learning cushion is there, and I have an earring from Olorn Art now, and You don't have to explain, Escherdy pointed in a more southerly direction. Go that way. Alden sent a hasty course change notice to traffic control, then did as he was told. A couple of minutes later, they were flying slowly over Punta de la Luna. Asherdy cast a spell that produced a familiar giant ball of light so that they could clearly see the hill the ambassadorial residence had once been built on top of. They finished recovering everything of value, and we arranged for the trash to be removed this morning. Clean, isn't it? It was. Unrecognizably so. A whole landscape was spread out below them, ready for new construction. The knight took a step closer so that they were standing nearly shoulder to shoulder. Envy from people who see only the reward and not the wreckage isn't worth the turning of an eye. Alden tried to imagine the exact position of the house, the greenhouse, the staircase he'd carried Zeridee down. You're right, he agreed. That's true. He turned to look at the knight, only to step back in shock as Asherdy's mouth opened and a huge belch of sound rattled the air around them. Oh my fucking hell, what? Alden's words were lost as the noise hit a sort of wet higher pitch, like a phlegmy bullfrog was having its legs pinched off slowly mid-bellow. When it finally ended, Alden was gaping at the Ayrtonian. Are you well? Does he need medical attention? Was it the potatoes? Fly back to the cubes slowly, Asherdy said in his normal, pleasant voice. We can't rush through the Elder's croak, especially not your first listening.